Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to Shivery 3 Chilling Tales of Horror. Tonight we have two more stories to share with you, all about creepy books and teeth. Our first story is about a book much like this one. In fact, it might even be this one. Let's see. I'm still not quite sure. Why don't you let me know what you think after this next story?
One day not too long ago, there was a girl named Amber. Amber was always roaming around in the library, wearing her glasses and had her auburn hair in a messy bun. She loved books and she loved to read. She read almost all the books in the library. However, she was still on the hunt for new ones. While she was roaming around the library one day, she spotted a thick black book on the floor. But this book was different. It looked like it had been there since the library opened in 1911. She was mesmerized by the book. She grabbed it and immediately went to go check it out. When she got to the counter, the librarian looked surprised and gave her the book. He asked in a concerned voice,
"Are you sure you want to take out this book?"
Amber walked away confused and said nothing when she noticed the librarian was giving her a worried look, but she dismissed it and went home. Once she got home, though, she ate dinner as fast as she could and immediately got ready for bed. As she got ready for bed, she got a call from an unknown number. The person on the other end said, but Amber thought it was a prank call and hung up. She got in the covers and she started to read the book.
Beware, if you read beyond this point, you will not see tomorrow.
But Amber just thought of it as a scary story and continued reading anyway. As she read, she began to fall asleep. Hours later, when it turned to midnight, vines sprang from the book and she quickly wrapped around her and pulled her inside the book. When Amber woke up, though, she realized that she was no longer in her comfortable bed, but in a forest full of fog. Later, while at work, the librarian looked over at his desk and saw that the book was sitting there. He sighed and returned the book to the shelf in the very back corner. People who came to the library always heard a whispering voice saying, "Burn it!" But no one cared to listen to the whisper until one day when a young girl named Ivy, who also loved books, came to the library. Ivy was different. She had come from a long line of witches. As soon as she saw the book in the back corner, she immediately knew what it was. It was a cursed book, cursed by an ancient demon. It said that only a witch could see that this book was cursed. She remembered being told by grandmother that there was a cursed book with no title and covered in leather, and that there was a man that always tried to warn you but was silenced by the demon, so he could not stop you from taking the book. And his subtle warnings, they never worked. Ivy grabbed the book and took it to the counter, thanked the man, and headed straight home. When she got home, she got a call from an unknown number saying, "Burn it." The person on the other end said she knew she had to burn the book, but not with just regular fire. She needed magic fire. Her grandmother had told her that regular fire would only release the demon, and that she would first have to wait to get pulled into the book, and once inside, she would need to find at least one other person and take them with her out of the book to free all who got stuck in there. Ivy laid in bed and began to read the leather book. Just as before, the book read,
Beware, if you read beyond this point, you will not see tomorrow.
But she was not afraid and continued reading until she fell asleep, and the vines pulled her in. Ivy woke up to Amber shaking her. Amber looked terrified, and tears were streaming down her face.
Hello? Wake up! Where are we? Do you know where we are?
Ivy sat up and told Amber.
Don't worry, I'm here to help. I'm Ivy.
She stood up and told Amber to follow her. Ivy led Amber through the foggy forest to a stone shrine. Ivy instructed Amber.
Once I do this, we both need to run as fast as we can and follow me.
Amber nodded her head in agreement, and Ivy started to chant, and a purple force appeared around her. Once a fire appeared in front of Ivy, Ivy shouted,
"Run!"
And they both started to sprint towards the way that came. Once they got to a seemingly edge of the forest, Ivy told Amber to close her eyes, and when she opened them, they were both in Amber's apartment, and the book was in front of them, burnt and crippled. Later, Amber and Ivy went to the bookstore and gave the librarian the book and walked away. The end. Oh, wait. That's not actually how it ended. I fell, and Ivy left me behind. I'm still in the book, burning.
What do you think? Do I have that book here in my hands? Wait a minute. Where did it go? A librarian must have shelved it when I wasn't looking. Well, I'm sure one of you will find it. It's a real page turner after all, a truly immersive experience. Ah. Oh. Loose tooth. Reminds me, we should get to our next story before our guest arrives.
Pine Grove was just like any neighborhood. It was quiet and a nice place to live. For most. For Isabel, not so much. Like many 16-year-olds, the focus in life was clear: fit in, survive school, and figure out what to do each weekend. Isabel spent many of her days alone and trying to fit in. She was different and could do things that others her age couldn't. She was able to communicate with mythical beings like Santa and the Easter Bunny. Every opportunity Isabel found to share this with someone was another opportunity to potentially make a friend. She tried to do this a lot, but was unsuccessful. Often, she was ridiculed and laughed at for things she shared, and she never learned how to gauge who was trustworthy or not. I'm sharing this story because Isabel disappeared a week after she spoke of the Tooth Fairy. No one knows where she went or what happened to her. I, unfortunately, do. And it haunts me to this day. I also don't look at teeth the same way anymore. I was always intrigued by what she would tell others and listen intently as if we were seated around a campfire. It wasn't like I believed the encounters she had were real, but I didn't find her to be a bad storyteller either. I believe her now after what I witnessed. She showed up to school 2 weeks ago, very distraught, and was acting as if someone was following her. This was when she began talking about the Tooth Fairy. Through tears, a bit of incoherence and sweat, Isabel spoke.
The Tooth Fairy is after me, and has asked me to become its successor. It is following me and looking for me, and once it finds me, I will be forever trapped in its sick nightmare.
Isabel continued and described what she experienced when she learned this information.
The Tooth Fairy collects kids' teeth, and then leaves some money behind under their pillows. That's all fine and good, right? I took it a step further, though, and asked the Tooth Fairy about where all the teeth go.
At this point in her recollection, she was visibly upset and afraid.
The Tooth Fairy spoke to me with a demented, overly wide smile and said,
"So glad you asked."
What came next was unbelievable. Literally. Isabel really struggled to describe what she witnessed, and her story was riddled with frequent pauses and moments where I was pretty sure she was going to throw up.
The Tooth Fairy grabbed my hand, and we flew over all the homes in Pine Grove. Eventually, we came to a graveyard with a bizarre-looking tree. As the Tooth Fairy and I approached the tree, it opened its pocket, and many teeth of many shapes and sizes emerged. They gravitated towards the tree and fixed themselves like leaves.
Isabel couldn't believe what she saw. The tree was gargantuan, and a mixture of colors from white to yellow to red. Apparently, the Tooth Fairy doesn't take the time to rinse off teeth before taking them to their final resting place in the tree. The sizes were all varied, and there were some that were broken or had long roots. Isabel regretted asking the Tooth Fairy about where the children's teeth of the world ended up. She also felt like gagging, as the stench from the tree was overpowering. After that, Isabel's attendance at school got worse. The thought I had stuck in my mind since I heard the story was, why? I couldn't figure out why the Tooth Fairy would collect the teeth and store them in such an odd fashion. I went to Isabel's house to check on her and hopefully get answers to my questions. I knocked on the door and it crept slowly open. It was neither closed nor locked, which seemed odd. Isabel's parents were both in law enforcement, so that didn't make sense. The home smelled putrid, and there was a loud rustling, crashing sound coming from upstairs. I raced towards Isabel's room, hoping to find her there, but I found someone else instead. Wearing Isabel's clothes was a creature with a rather large body frame and a pair of wings on its back. It was bright pink and smelled the same as the putrid scent that filled the home. It turned around and smiled widely.
You must have come to see Isabel off. You're too late, as I've already assimilated her as my new successor.
The creature was extracting what I can only assume were Isabel's teeth. One by one, with pliers in hand and that same grotesque grin.
She won't need these anymore, and I require them for my collection.
I shrieked and backed into a corner as it came closer. Its hand grasped the bloody pliers as it moved closer to me. All I could do was scream, so scream I did. Why? The tooth fairy halted its approach and hissed.
The teeth keep me free. The teeth keep me alive. The teeth keep me fed.
I still don't know if it was because I asked why, or because it had already taken Isabel, but it faded into darkness and left. It's been a month now, and my life, mostly, has returned to normal. I haven't tried talking to anyone about my experience. Who the heck would believe me anyway? I have nightmares almost nightly, and I can see the tooth fairy's tree and grin in my head. I can remember the smell, and it's become difficult to brush my teeth. I should probably tell my therapist, but I also don't want to get locked up from no one believing me. I guess I'll have a pretty bizarre story to tell Santa the next time I see him, and after my next teeth cleaning.
Thank you for joining me, Madam Tooth Fairy. Can I offer you a snack? But don't be rude. Use your utensils. Well, that concludes this evening's stories. Join me next time for 2 more creepy tales. I'm sure you'll dig them. Good night.